Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a very warm welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott, and as you can see, I'm joined by Lord Noble, Ian Noble. Good evening, mate.
Evening, Nick.
Jolly good. Are you well, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you.
Jolly good. And Nigel Croucher up top north. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you.
And belatedly there, I'm also joined by Monsieur Lyons. Ian, how are you, buddy?
Not too bad, not too bad. Cold, like I guess the rest of us are at the minute, and a bit confused when it's lovely, bright sunshine outside. But we get on with it, don't we?
How does it work? That about an hour ago, it was blue sky and snow. That's the bit that really got me. I'm sitting here and I am freezing cold. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are watching in the world, good evening and thank you for joining us on this freezing cold Tuesday evening. It's Tuesday, isn't it? Chris Gunn, I can see you out there. Darren, Keith, Ian Appley, Lucy Usher, our hero. We'll see you Sunday evening, Luce. Thank you for joining us. Steve Chandler, Michael Montgomery. Thanks, everybody, and welcome aboard. Obviously, we're going to be chewing the cud over what happened at Goodison Park last night. A 1-1 draw, a very well-earned 1-1 draw, I would say. We've got some things to talk about. We're going to be talking about Roy's contract, Ian Lyons' Euro Predictions League, stats and your requests for stats on the show going forward. We'll kick off, I think, boys. Should we kick off with last night's lineup? Unchanged 11. I don't think it was a great surprise that he went with the same team that played at West Brom. Gaeta in goal, who obviously we're going to touch on quite heavily tonight. Ward, Kouate, Cahill, Patrick Van Arnholt, although in one of my private chats last night, I don't know if any of you saw it, did I share it? He was actually called something else last night. Luka Milivojevic, Jairo Riedewald, Wilfried Zaha, Ebrieze, Jordan Ayew, and Christian Benteke with Matata Schlupp, Batshuayi, Mitchell, Kelly, Hannon, and Townsend on the bench. Any surprises in that lineup, boys? This is Roy Hodgson we're talking about, so probably not. Ian Noble, I'm coming to you first.
No, I don't think so, Nick. I think, we won the previous game. They say, you don't change a winning team. I know there's a long time between the games, and much was made of that, I think, in the pre-match analysis, the warm-up and then the post-match analysis as well about not playing for such a long time and the players being away on international duty and so on and so forth. But the lineup didn't surprise me. I feel a bit for Andros Townsend. He didn't get on the pitch. He hasn't done much wrong, really. I like him when he plays. I know not everyone is a big fan, but I felt a bit for him not getting on the pitch. But it was great to have the opportunity to bring on players that can change a game, because that's what Jeffrey Schlupp did, and of course Batshuayi. I can't say his name. I find it very difficult. I call him Batsman. That's what Batsman. Batshuayi. I always think of Hong Kong Fooey. Anyway, Batsman. Clearly, when you make a substitution and you bring on a striker of international class that can then do what he's paid to do and score that goal and get you that point, then you probably look at it and saying those substitutions are inspired, to answer the question, no surprises in the team selection, but of course there will be changes for next week, and we'll come to Chelsea later, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will. And Nigel, and your thoughts on the lineup, because I know George Wagner in the questions crew was trying to bait us all yesterday afternoon, saying about the lineup and everything else, and doing his usual stuff. But the reality was, I think I summed it up at about 4 o'clock saying, he ain't going to change it, is he? Would you have done anything differently?
No, I say it's typical, Roy. You don't break something that's not broken. And I say all the players came back from international duty still in one piece, which is a rare thing normally when we go away on international duties. So it was expected.
Ian, would you have brought somebody like maybe Townsend in or something like that, or maybe give him a start? Your thoughts?
Well, no, like the boys said, yeah, Roy, we know Roy's not going to make any changes, and he certainly is not going to change, a side that's not done too badly of late. But it's nice to see him making changes at long last. I know we'll come on to that later, and that you've got the strength in depth. I do feel a bit sorry for Andros, I've got to say. And I wish that we had a centre half that was fit and ready. although I'm probably not counting Kelly in that, to allow Chiarte to take over from Luca in midfield. But other than that, I think it was a sound start in 11.
I think we'll do the Luca bit in a minute.
Do you not think? Sorry, Nick, can I come in? Do you not think Kuute is now a centre back? You know, we keep talking about bringing him back into midfield, but he plays there for his country. He's played there virtually every minute for us in the Premier League this season. Is he now not a centre back?
I think no. I'm going to give you my opinion actually for a change instead of me asking the questions. As you've raised the question, Ian, and I want you to say hello to a few people from the chat, if you'd be so kind. My opinion is, I think that is the case. I know Ian Lyons is going to argue with me in a minute, but his format in the midfield of last time he played there wasn't great. Okay, and he only went back there because of our chronic injuries with Sacco and everything else, all being injured. I think, he's won man of the match performances back there. You can't argue he's a talent on the ball. I think at the moment, I'll put my neck on the line here, waiting for Linesy to jump on me. I think he's probably our best centre back. Linesy?
Definitely.
Well, you want an invite for me to jump on you? This is news.
Go for it, Linesy.
Listen. I'm not saying he's not doing a good job. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, I would prefer him in the midfield where he's better. It'll be better for us, and he can actually run. He's having to be very incredibly disciplined, as you do as a centre back, alongside Cahill, and he's doing a really good job. But can you honestly tell me if Tompkins is fit again, that he's not going to get a look in? He's good. What will be interesting is who takes the fall, because I don't think Chiarte. I think Chiarte would still be in the side, but who then makes way for him? And if it's Gyro, I think I would pull what's left of my hair out, because I think he's been bloody superb, just as every bit as Chiarte has been.
We're going to do your fall guy bit next. Ian Noble, in the chat, please, mate.
Yeah, so evening, Gary Clark, Shirley Gale, good evening, gentlemen, she says. That's nice to be called gentlemen. George is there, Lee Clark, Paul Grant, I've said him, Laurie Scott, Robert Lay, good evening to you, Will Robbs, Andy Stacey. Yeah, that's all I can see at the moment, Nick.
Mate, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
I've got Neil Chatterjee.
Neil.
Obviously, Lucy Usher, Andy Best.
George Ragwood, that's your second mention of the evening.
Christopher Gunn, Colin Squires. There's plenty of people looking on. There's about 54, 55 people on at the moment.
Well, thank you for joining us. Right, okay, so we're going to talk. We'll do the game, and we'll cover the 2 goals and that sort of stuff, and we'll cover some statistics in a minute. And before I get into the next point, ladies and gentlemen, pre-show we were talking about stats. Are they boring to you, or do you enjoy any stats that we give you during the course of the show? Going forward, what would you like? Would you like more in the way of stats? Is there particular stats you like us to focus on? I've got the stats from the game in front of me here. I'm not going to do them just yet. We'll do them later on. But what would you like for the show? This is your show. We give up our time on these evenings for your benefit. So what would you like, Ian?
Can I ask for a running total calculator on Mamadou Sakho's wages every time we come on? See how many hundreds of thousands it's gone up by.
Yeah, or how many pounds per minute when we're broadcasting is he earning while we're on air.
I think that's.
I've got a spreadsheet for that, Ian.
Yeah, I'm sure you could create a spreadsheet.
Would you say there aren't enough digits on your spreadsheet?
I say, have you not got a spreadsheet running for that one?
Yeah, well, I'm sure we could work one out.
So we know that we've got a whole heap of good performances to talk about from last night. Notably, Vincenzo Guaisa, of course. But what I want to do is I want to focus the next 5 minutes, if we can, on 2 players. I think last night was a good all-round team performance, let down in 2 areas. Ladies and gentlemen in Facebook land, do you agree that the 2 poorest performances on the pitch, and maybe your full guy that you were talking about just a minute ago, boys, was Luka Milivojevic, our skipper? Why will not the manager not standing down in place of maybe Chiarte? Okay, and also Patrick Van Aanholt. Okay, Patrick Van Aanholt should now be playing for his contract replacement or extension at the end of the season. Are we going down that avenue, boys? Are we going to talk about? Do we give him an extension of contract? Ian Lyons, you're You're smiling. I'm coming to you first. Talk to me about Patrick Van Aanholt. Arnold, sorry.
I'm not smiling. It's wind. But there you go. No, we don't. We don't give him. He's a liability, just like Luca is at the minute. Luca's been dropped from the national side now as well. So PVA is not going to sign a contract with us anyway. He's already flirting with other clubs. His agent's doing a lot of work. Let him go. Tyrek Mitchell's not the finished article. Certainly not going forward as PVA is in a minute, but he'll grow into that role. So I think we've got back up there at the minute. And we can save on the wages, and I think the same with Luca as well.
Either of you other boys want to come in on that?
Yeah, I thought PVA. Go on, Nigel, you first, and I'll come next.
Yeah, well, I think PVA wants to go home. He wants to go back to the Netherlands. He's made that sort of fairly public knowledge, and I think we've got the young natural talent of our own, young Mitchell, to come through and replace him. Sort of a little bit more game time.
Nice. Hold that thought on Mitchell, because I want to come to Ian now. Hold that thought on Mitchell. I'm coming back to you in a second.
I thought PVA had a poor game last night. There were a couple of occasions that I can remember watching the game live where he actually turned his back on the winger, and he should have been getting stuck in, facing up to him, closing him down quickly, and he sort of gave him loads of space, turned his back. They got the cross in. There was one in the first half where Richarlison just headed it over the bar, could have easily been a goal. And there was another one in the second half that came to nothing. And I thought it was really poor defending. Going forward, he did link up well with the likes of Eze and Wilf on occasion, for sure. But when he got into the positions which we've seen him get into previously in the opposition box, he didn't even look up. He played the ball across and it went to nowhere. And in fact, it put us on the back foot because it went to one of their players and we had about 5 people in the penalty area and suddenly they broke quickly. And that was because he didn't even look up. So yeah, I thought he was, along with Luka Milivojevic, he was our poorest performer last night. And I would go as far as to say, make that change for Saturday. It's all about rotation a little bit when you've got a squad of players. Tyrek Mitchell's back fit again. He's never let us down. I agree with you, Ian. He's not the finished article. But I will make that change for Saturday for sure. I'll drop PVA. He wouldn't play in my team on Saturday. Okay,
I'm glad you mentioned Mitchell again because I'm coming to him now. Dawn Palace is saying need a replacement for PVA. PVA can't budget is what she's saying. And Paul Grant is saying I'd take PVA on the ferry to Holland myself. Complete waste of space. Right. Okay. So let's work on that assumption that PVA goes at the end of the season, and you boys are right. We don't extend his contract. Let's work on the assumption that we're going to then promote young Tyrek Mitchell to the first team, and he's now going to be our left back. To me, that raises 2 questions. Okay. Number one, who's Mitchell's backup when he gets injured? We don't have one. And
Gyro.
No, I disagree. Okay,
I think we need to go into the market and buy another left back. I don't think Tyrek Mitchell's ready. We must go and buy another left back.
Who would you go for then?
And if you make it known that you need to buy a left back, suddenly when Crystal Palace start talking to other clubs about left backs, suddenly their price rises. But we've got to buy. If we let PVA go, we've got to replace him basically in the squad. And
Dawn's come back with another question. She said, "What about Ferguson?"
He's a right back.
Ferguson in my, I don't believe he's dual-footed. Dawn, I think he is a right back, as the guys quite rightly alluded to. So you've now shot a hole already through our squad for next season because PVA's gone and Mitchell's there. What about our skipper? Good evening, Paul Glance. I can see you in hot Benidorm. Welcome, mate. So what about our skipper, Luka Milivojevic? Now, I believe he's one of them where the contract's not up. Am I right?
I don't know.
I think he's one of the very few that's actually got time left on his contract. Why would the manager not drop him? Why is he a liability? What's happened to Luka Milivojevic? Nigel Croucher, coming to you first.
Well, has Luka got the negatives of Roy and Ray together in the shower or something?
Is that what it is?
No, but that's tongue in cheek. But for some reason, he is somebody Roy will not drop. If Roy's contract expires at the end of the season, be interesting to see what Luca does with himself. You know, new broom might not pick him, sort of thing.
I mean, I don't think he wasn't a disaster throughout the whole 90 minutes yesterday. He gave the ball away a couple of times, which was shocking. And gave them an opportunity. Gave them an opportunity to score goals. You know, simple as that.
Yeah.
That one in the first half, we lost possession. You know, in our own half, sort of left midfield, was awful, absolutely shocking. But there were other times where he got the ball and he played the ball forward, and he played the ball forward well. And I think we miss those moments in games. We don't always see them
because they more often than not amount to nothing. That, you know, he's dilly dallying on the ball. The where we were good last night was when we were doing one touch. They were standing off us. They couldn't get near us. Benteke was doing really well, linking well. Eze and Wilf were linking well. Ayew was doing a lot of work. As soon as he got to Luca, you know, even if with a throw on the level with their penalty area, it goes straight back to Gaeta. And even then it was under hit. He then stumbles, gets caught on the ball, misplaced pass, all within the first 20, 30 minutes. And the game could have been done. Okay, he might have hit 3 40-yard balls into easy crossfield passes, but that's not enough. Nowhere near enough. Riedeveld was carrying him last night. Riedeveld was doing twice the work. I saw someone on here saying Riedeveld was having a rubbish game. Can't believe what I saw then. Riedeveld was quality. And the reason Luca is still there is because of the work that Maka does or Riedeveld does alongside him.
Gareth Walsh has just suggested Gyro for captain in place of...
Of what? They're under 23s?
I'm not sure about that one, but I thought there was a real mixed views about Gyro last night. I've read on Twitter, some people thought he had a shocking game, and others thought he played well. I thought he did okay. I thought he was fine.
It does surprise me. I mean, it goes to show that we all see different things in games, don't we?
Yeah.
But,
and that's the beauty, and that's what we do. That's why we do what we do.
It is the beauty of the game, isn't it?
Because we've all got different opinions. Exactly right. Okay, Mr. Noble, do you fancy giving me a quick overview on the first half?
Yeah, okay. That's a bit of a fast ball. Yeah, I did watch the game. Yeah, I thought we started quite brightly, if I remember rightly. I think we started quite well. And then we made a few mistakes, like we've already touched on. You know, Luca, Ayew lost the ball, didn't he, in his own half once, and Guita was fantastic. He made some brilliant saves. I also thought we got a bit lucky because there were times when Richarlison headed over, and he you know, other days he would have scored. So I think we had a bit of the rub of the green with their first half chances. Yeah, and I thought half time I tweeted something like I was okay with that, pleased with the half, and it wasn't too bad. But you know, second period again we started quite brightly, I think, and as Roy said in his post-match presser, you know, we conceded a goal when it didn't look like we were going to concede a goal. Sometimes when you concede, you know, you can see it coming. You know, the pressure mounts. That wasn't the case necessarily. Yes, it was a ball in and another great save. And actually, it was a brilliant strike by their lad, James, whatever his name is. Absolutely fantastic strike. And he got it in with a whisker, you know. I mean, Guita had that post covered almost, but he just got under his leg and 1-0. And yet you've seen the Crystal Palace sides previously down the years fold at 1-0 down. And, you know, and I think they had chances to make it 2 and 3. They didn't take them. Substitutions were made. And you know, we did what we had to do and, you know, get that equalising goal. And then Mateta right at the death.
Could have won it.
Could have won it, yeah. The keeper's a good save, actually, for that in stoppage time.
I'll tell you what, that was a great strike as well because he intentionally went high and it almost caught the keeper out.
Yeah,
and this is what I like about Mateta. On the deck, he is way and above better than Benteke in those situations. If we can actually get him to get a bit more of an engine, I saw more out of him last night than I had done in the previous games. I think he's going to be a real asset for us if we can feed him. I think
he'll feature on Saturday because Michy Batshuayi is unavailable, isn't he? Because we're playing Chelsea, so he can't play. He's not going to be there.
Parent club.
So okay. I think we'll see more of Mateta. on Saturday.
I just want to jump into the chat a minute, guys, because there are names in here that I haven't seen before, and I want to make sure everybody feels welcome and they've joined us later in the show.
Course, Nick,
Will King, Graham Daniels, Gary Harris, Mark Willis, Rachi Kanya came in. Good evening to you, Steve Chandler, Alison Thrower. I can see you out there. Thank you for joining us this evening. Steve Brimble, Dawn Clark, Simon Cheeseman, Lawrence Allen. Lots of different names out there this evening.
Cheesy's a top boy.
Cheesy?
Cheesy, top boy.
Good, but I'm very grateful. Okay, so did we cover the goals there? Have you covered both goals in detail?
Yeah. Well, the goals. Yeah, their goal, as I said, good strike. And you thought at the time that Goethe saved it, hadn't you? Made one save and he's got back, and it was pinging about a bit like a pinball, wasn't it?
Ian, can I ask, in the build-up to the goal, do you think anyone was at fault for the goal, or do you think it was a good move on their part? Or
I think it was a good move on their part. I don't recall anyone being at fault. Have I missed something?
So do you not think when the shot came in, Patrick Van Aanholt turned his back on the shot instead of facing up the ball?
Did he? Yeah, he probably did again. I can't remember, to be honest with you. I've watched the highlights back as well.
I mean, it was
again now on my phone.
It was interesting. It was interesting that it was the one time that they did a little flick. It was Digne, wasn't it, on the left?
Yeah, it was.
And I thought Ward was a little slow on the cover on the third man run. But again, I've seen that Gyro Riedewald may have been at fault, maybe further back in the move. Depends how far you want to go back. I mean, but yeah, I just thought it was coming at the time. The goal, VG had already made a number of saves to stop us being about 3 or 4-0 down. And I mean, it's nice to be positive about a draw and about certain aspects of the performance, but I guess we do still have to counter for the fact that VG, for my money, was probably man in a match.
Oh, he was, no doubt about it. Yeah.
And that is for a reason, and that's because we, at times, it was like schoolboy defending. I mean, just blatant long field balls straight down the middle were catching us out all the time. But hey, look, listen, that point was a great point, I think.
It always feels better, doesn't it, when you come from behind, so to speak, Mrs. But, if you come from behind and get a point, especially away from home, it feels better, doesn't it, than if you've had the lead and lost the lead. So Everton will be kicking themselves. They weren't happy that they didn't win last night. They had plenty of chances to put that game to bed, and they didn't take them. And as you say, Ian, VG, man of the match, really, played brilliantly. Definitely earned his money. Nick, we've lost you, sound-wise.
Try that. And Gary Clark just corrected me in the chat. He said that it was Gyro that turned his back. While I do this next segment, Ian Noble, could you just check the goal for us? Because I thought it was actually PVA.
Both of them.
Yeah, I think it was. I think Gary's right.
Double Dutch.
It was double Dutch trouble.
And while he's checking that, boys, I'm coming to you two now, because our goal scorer Michy Batshuayi, complained when he finished his international duty that he feels that the club aren't supporting him, or it's a different vibe underneath him. He said during the March international break, Batshuayi had appeared to criticise Roy Hodgson for his treatment at Palace. He suggested that the Belgian boss, Roberto Martinez, had treated him differently. After scoring in the 8-0 thrashing of Belarus last week, he said, "I get a breath of renewed energy when I come into the national team because it's very hard for me at my club. The coach, the team members and the system are different from that at Palace. With the Red Devils, Belgium, I feel a lot of trust from the coach that I do not get there at Palace." Hodgson was not too happy with those remarks, telling the Chelsea loanee to be careful. But he was not surprised by them. He said he wouldn't hold it against him. Having brought him on at Goodison Park, his faith was repaid when Batshuayi scored 2 minutes after his introduction. In his post-match press conference, Hodgson said the 27-year-old's complaints, he scored a goal, which is important. He has to be pleased with that, and we are pleased with that. Your thoughts on his Batshuayi's comments after the international match, Mr. Lyon?
Well, I think he was right, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I think in 3 of the first 4 or 5 games, he stuffed the ball in the back of the net and was offside by like that on each occasion. The guy knows where the goal is. Of that, there is no doubt. But again, Hodgson is the victim of his own practices at times. You know, we get all these talented players, Max Meyer being another one, and because they don't fit in with Hodgson's way of thinking and don't necessarily pull the weight that they should be pulling in his system because it demands that, then they're ostracised and outed. And I mean, let me turn it around. Does anyone out there think, right, A, who would want Batshuayi to stay? And B, do they think we've got a chance of keeping him after the way he's been treated? That's what I'll ask.
Thank you for asking those 2 questions, because I was about to do exactly the same thing. So, you know, what happens to Batshuayi in the season, people? We haven't seen enough of him to make an informed decision, in my opinion. But, Nigel, give us some stats from the game, from full-time stats.
Just the full-time stats, yeah.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
I thought he was going to say 1-1. That's it.
Yeah, 1-1. Called me out. Right.
I love the way this is so seamless.
Yeah. The full-time stats. We actually had most possession. We had 53% compared to Everton's 47%. Shots.
But that's different as well, isn't it, from recent games?
It's been a long time since we had over 50% possession, and I think it's not many times we've had that much throughout the season. We had 13 shots compared to Everton's 15. 6 on target for Palace. Everton had 7. Corners, that was 3 for Everton, 4 for Palace. And fouls, that was 10s each. So sort of fairly balanced tempered game.
I was looking at those stats and I was thinking to myself, that must be something that the manager has changed for the possession stat, 53% possession, shots 13. When last did we have 13 shots and 6 of those being on target? Something was different last night. It wasn't a fantastic performance, but it was an improved performance.
We had 13 shots yesterday, and the last time we had 13 shots was Burnley at home when we lost 3-0. And again, that was 53% possession. So, you know, it just proves stats mean nothing.
Well, they only tell the story.
Compare the 2 results.
And I'll give you another one. Palace have a single clean sheet in 19 Premier League away matches. And that came in a goalless draw away at Arsenal in January. So our back 4 that was our staple under Roy Hodgson isn't necessarily that staple anymore. I think we need a bit of an overhaul, don't we, lads, if I'm honest with you?
I think the problem with the back 4 is that you could make a case for changing every one of them. Maybe with the exception of Cheki Koute. Gary Cahill is not going to go on forever. If he lasts another season, we'll have done well. You know, undoubtedly, absolute fantastic talent in his prime, but he's 35. You know, I worry about that. I worry about and the reason we get so many injuries is because we've got so many older players. Joel Ward's been a fantastic servant, but is he really, you know, the quality right back that we need? Question, discuss. And we've talked about PVA already. So you could argue that the whole of that back 4 gets changed.
Well, I mean, it's no mistake that we're being linked with pretty much every up-and-coming young centre-back in Europe at the minute, aren't we? Almost like every other day there's an article somewhere on the net or in the media saying we're interested in, along with Man United, Arsenal and everything else. I love the way they just lump us in with everyone. You know, we've got to look a little closer to home, I think. If you look at Everton as an example of that, Holgate and Godfrey, 2 great centre-backs, young centre-backs they've bought. Okay, Holgate they've seemed to have moved into midfield, and Godfrey came on late. But they spent money on him quick and early. And I think we need to maybe look in around, who is it, Rondon? Is it Rondon? The guy at Tottenham they picked up from Swansea, another young English centre back. There are plenty there in the lower divisions, and that's where we really need to be looking for a lot of this talent. I think.
I've got a comment from the chat. Laurie Scott says Batshuayi was largely disinterested when he didn't walk straight into the side. In his opinion, what he said was disrespectful to Roy and to us as a club, with some managers wouldn't have seen him in the side again. But what Roy did, and I thought he was quite graceful, he's actually said that, on 38 points, we are as good as they're now. And he will feature more and more as the season goes on. I want to come back to the Cahill point as well, by the way. You guys were talking about Cahill and his age. I tweeted out this week a comment that once again Gary Cahill won player of the month, and I think it's probably his second, might even be his third time this season he's won player of the month for this. What did you just say, Ian? 35-year-old.
He's 35.
This is the same player of the month again. Okay, that we haven't offered a contract extension to. In my mind, it's you're right. We can get squeeze another season out of him. We'll tie him down.
I would give him. Having said what I've said, I would still give him 12 months. I'll give him a 12-month contract. You can't give him any longer than that because of his age. But you definitely give him another 12 months without any shadow of a doubt. Because if he stays fit, he can do a job for us still.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. And not only that, it would probably be a way of keeping him longer term, doing a coaching badge and getting him as part of the backroom staff. And that's where it will really pay off. His influence on the young kids coming through the system, or even being an assistant manager to someone, that because I know that he's got aspirations to get into management and coaching and management at some stage. I think that's what we should be preying on.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll draw a line under it. So up next for Palace on Saturday, the 10th of April, we kick off at 17:30 hours British Summer Time against Chelsea, live from Selhurst Park, and it will be live on Sky Sports. So, your thoughts are, because I'm going to come on to the elephant in the room in a minute, but your thoughts on the Chelsea game, boys? Can we get anything out of that?
Well, I think they'll be smarting a little bit, won't they, from the West Brom defeat? Nobody saw that coming. Nobody got that result right in the Predictions League, Ian, did they? Nobody.
No one got anywhere close to it in the Predictions
Did anyone
League.
even predict West Brom were going to win? Probably not.
No one did.
Yeah, so nobody saw that result coming at all. Okay, it wasn't helped because they had a player sent off. I didn't watch the game, by the way, but I watched the highlights back, and I suppose in some ways it made me think, well, what a good result it was against West Brom when we played them before the break. But every team has an off day, so I think Chelsea. Sad it makes me to say they'll be smarting a little bit and they'll be up for it. Really up for it. So we need to take the positives of everything from our last couple of games. I think it'll be a good game. I still think we might get something out of it. I'd always go for my boring 1-1 prediction, probably. But yeah, it'll be a tough one for sure.
And I love the way you seamlessly fed me in then to the Ian Lyons' Prediction League, which we're coming on to next. Nigel, your thoughts on ahead at the Saturday game ahead?
Well, obviously things are going to change because of that's why he's playing against his parent club. But I think.
So was that Matassa
knowing Roy, he's just going to stick with the same starting 11.
He's got to change Mitch. He's got to bring Mitchell in. You can't watch PVA play like that and not make that change. I don't think. But
that's the glasses we look through, but we don't know what sort of how Roy looks at it.
He's proved time and time again that he looks at it completely differently. Mr. Lyons, your thoughts ahead?
Well, as the only one of the four of us that's not wearing glasses, I'm not entirely sure. I think what. Okay, look, I understand that Chelsea was down to 10 men, but nevertheless, I think what West Brom have shown is that you can get at them, and the way that Roy sets his team up and the way that Sam sets the team up aren't that dissimilar. And not to put too fine a point on it, we've got a bit more quality than West Brom have. So I personally think we could cause them problems. We need to ensure that we don't concede early, but I think we can get at Chelsea. And I understand what Mr. Noble's saying about, and they'll be smarting from it, and they will become, but we'll be ready for it. And it's how we deal with them on the counter attack, because they are definitely vulnerable on the counter attack.
You use the Roy and Sam analogy, with one exception, Ian, though. The one difference I noticed with Sam's team last weekend against Chelsea was the early press, which is something that we do not have in our locker, is the early press. Sam set them up on Saturday, or the weekend, whenever it was, to get at them really early, right from the kickoff. He got them in their face, and that was the difference. And by the way, Liverpool losing 2-0 to Real Madrid live as we speak at the moment.
Man City are 1-0 up against Dortmund.
Someone said Norwich are winning 5-0 against Huddersfield as well.
Yeah, it's not even half time yet.
Blimey. Yeah, so that's the difference. I mean, Sam has set that team up differently, but that said, on the flip side, you are right, Ian, that we have the quality perhaps that they don't. And of course, and lastly, don't concede the early goal was one of your points just a minute ago. Well, didn't we concede an early goal at Stamford Bridge when Zaha
4 years ago?
We were there, mate. We were there. So
yeah, I was with you, Nick, that day.
I think it was. Yeah, it was following one of the boat trips, wasn't it? Of course you were. Of course you were. So, right, okay, we're going to move on to one subject, and then I'm going to come back to Palace in a second, or more importantly, the manager in a minute. And I'm going to title this segment "Red and Blue Euro Predictions League." Mr. Mr. Lyon, sorry.
Not me, not my baby.
Yeah, well, following the success of the current prediction league, which is hotting up nicely now that
just before you carry on, who's been knocked off the top spot?
I've been knocked off the top spot by Liz Hockley. Liz Hockley got both results correct yesterday, and she's unceremoniously dethroned me at the minute.
Well done, Liz.
But yeah, well done, Liz. But yeah, on the back of that, we're going to be running the prediction league for the Euro 2020. So there's going to be a maximum of 50 players allowed on this one. So get in fast when we announce it officially. Look out for the video. The video will be coming out in the next few weeks, I would have thought. In giving you ample time to scrape some pennies together and get involved. There will be cash prizes. There will be the usual updates, and there'll even be a show or two from yours truly to talk about the league and the Euros themselves. So there'll be no rest for the wicked, and I know that we've already got a few that are willing to sign up. So yeah, all good, and all good fun. I know you three are in it, aren't you? So
yeah. But those of you watching the scene, you're going to get the early. You're getting the early information on it, and as you can see from the beginning of this little segment, it's a lot of fun. And there's nothing that gives me much more joy in this world to watch Ian Lyons getting his arse kicked, okay? And that's what happened at the weekend and over the last couple of results. It was a joyous thing to behold, ladies and gentlemen. So get involved. He's put a lot of work into it, and it's a bit of fun. Right, okay, so excuse me. The one thing that I want to talk about now, so we get a great point at Goodison Park last night. We get 3 points against West Brom. We're safe in the Premier League. 8 consecutive seasons in the Premier League, 4 of which I believe off the top of my head managed by Roy Hodgson. Contract discussions or otherwise, discuss. Okay, so I mean, I've just given you the positives behind the man. Okay, we know that we have had to endure a season of turgid. I'm going to do it now. Bleep button, shit football, okay, because a lot of it has been poor, okay, but you can't knock the guy. He's brought in to do a job, and he's done it in spades. Why are we not offering him a contract extension, gents?
Who's going first?
Line up.
Look, he's 73. I can't see how you can't go on forever in a job. When I'm 73, I don't want to be working day in, day out. Maybe that's the difference between Roy and the rest of us. I think he's done a fantastic job for Palace, and everyone holds their hands up and say what a great job he's done to keep us in the Premier League safely, comfortably in those years that he's been in charge. But the football is boring. It really is. Is maybe last night aside, and if we play like that for the final 8 games, then there'll be a few people changing their minds about him, maybe. But I still think that the time is right at the end of the season for him to go. And I'd like to see someone younger coming in with different ideas. Maybe attract different players. That's my view.
Okay, Ian, I know you're busy typing away, but you must make sure you keep your eye on the chat, because Paul Holden's just said, Ian Lyons, you were top of the league for ages. Now you've bottled it. Are you Liverpool in disguise?
You mean what I've just dropped on the screen? Yeah, he's right. Mr. 2-1 himself.
Nige, talk to me about Roy Hodgson.
Roy, he's done a cracking job for 4 years.
Your twin brother, by the way.
You get what you're given with Roy. Sort of, he will keep you in the league. But as Ian says, he's 73. It's time for him to go. Maybe keep him at the club, put him upstairs as an advisor. But we definitely, I think we need young blood. I've got a sneaking, I think I've got a sneaking suspicion Parish has got somebody lined up, which is why so many of the contracts have run down. For the new guy to come in on the 20 whatever it is of May, day after the season, to help go in and sort of say, right, I'll have him. He can go. Rather than get somebody in August where the squad's already been trimmed down, he's just left with what's given. So I think there could be something going on behind the scenes, but Parish plays his cards extremely close to his chest these days.
I know. And Ian, before I come to you and your thoughts on the subject, there are varying thoughts in the chat, which is the whole point of this. Okay, Andrew Adams saying, let's remember Roy's remit was to keep us in the Premier League, which he's done. If anything, the board should have set him better targets. Gary Clark says 100% I'd give Roy an extension. Will Robb said has done a job, as I've said. He should go with his head held high. If he's jeopardising that, what else is he missing? I can't read that one. Very interesting. Both sides of the coin there. Roy is the cheap option, and that's what appeals to Parish, says Laurie Scott. And Mark Bushell says, Roy's age means we have to move on. We can't expect him to go on forever. Time for new blood.
So do you want the runners and riders then in this? Because, I was thinking, who, if we talk about one thing, we talk about Roy leaving, and, I think it's right, going with his head held high. Who would replace him? So these are the runners and riders. Okay, so favourite still is Eddie Howe, 9-4. John Terry, please no, 5-2. Don't get that one at all because he's never managed. Frank Lampard, 7-2. Sean Dyche, 8-1. Lee Johnson at Sunderland, 14-1.
No.
Michael Carrick, 16-1. Friedman. And then Pardew at 16s as well.
Oh, bloody hell.
No, I think as you get further down, it gets a bit of a joke. But, Sean Dyche, for me, has been at Burnley 10 years. He's done a fantastic job at Burnley, hasn't he? Keeping them in the Premier League for as long as he has, getting them up in the first place. But surely he wants a new challenge, doesn't he, at some point? He hasn't got the money at Burnley, has he, that he would get at Palace, maybe? I don't know. What do you think about it? I think you've got to have someone with experience of the league, haven't you?
What was that, Nigel?
Burnley have had the takeover, sort of. So, sort of how much money's going to get sort of shown in the next window.
Well, I think that's definitely going to be the interesting thing as far as Dyche is concerned. Yeah. Listen, with regards to Roy, your original question, Nick, everyone knows my thoughts on that. I'd sooner he keep us up and go and be able to go with his head held high than things come to a natural end. Lots of players out of contract, and then him just not, just petering out to a dull, dreary type of football and relegation ultimately, as we don't progress like other clubs are progressing. I know that Joe often says, well, who's going to be the replacement? You keep talking about Roy going, but who's going to be a replacement? And as Ian said, that there are clearly options out there. As to what option Parish goes for, I think, Nigel, you bring up a really good point with regards to we're seemingly letting certain contracts run down. And why would we be doing that if we had thoughts of keeping the manager? Because surely you'd be using that to build for the following season. So that is an interesting. It's not something I'd really considered. So that was an interesting point. I'm still not sure about Eddie Howe. I've got to say, I know that he's currently in talks with Celtic allegedly, and things are close there. But Dyche, I could live with. Dyche is an underestimated manager. He does play a similar turgid type of football at times, the way Roy does. But it'd be interesting to see how he deals with better quality players. And also he's able to adapt, and he's shown time after time that he's able to adapt during a game, which is one of the pleasing things to see Roy doing yesterday. For me, I wouldn't put Frank. Is it Frank out of from Brentford out of the picture yet? Because I know that at one point they were looking to come up straight away. I'm not so sure that's going to be the case now. And he's used to I think Steve Parish is very interested in the money ball methodology, isn't he? And the guy that owns Brentford really, really works on that premise, the money ball, all about data, all about stats. And Frank obviously knows how to work with players as well that aren't necessarily fans' favourites or household names. So I think, and also we need to remember that we may have had one bad experience with a foreign manager, but there are plenty of other decent foreign managers out there.
I'm coming on to one right now because it's something that George Wagwell's been banging on about in the questions crew during the week. And also, interestingly enough, it's come up. The guys in the chat are actually having their own private show between themselves now. Tom Clark Samuel just said it, and George has said it again. Paulo Fonseca from Roma has been linked. Okay.
Yeah, Gareth Walsh has just said that as well. Yeah.
Paul Bristow is saying player recruitment should be well underway, but how can that be going ahead without knowing who the boss will be? Excellent point. Brilliant point. Because that's, at the end of the day, Nigel's point about the contracts are running down because he thinks Steve Parish maybe has got something lined up. Well, we need to, the clock is ticking, ladies and gents, and I'm concerned about it. I'd rather say he's the question, new manager, but will he get the funds to replace all of those players?
I'm hearing whoever gets his manager next year gets upwards of 50 million to spend on players,
which is nothing.
Well, 50 million.
But then again, this comes back to what I was just saying. It all depends on what methodology you're going to take. If you're going to try and buy proven players, which for us clearly hasn't worked with the likes of Benteke and Mamadou Sakho in particular, where you're paying ridiculously large amounts of money for them just to sit on the bench or not perform for you, what good is that? If you're gonna look for up and coming talent, you can get. You're right, there, Ian.
No, I didn't try and get a glass of water. I'll be back in a minute.
I was going to say, hit your mute button, mate.
So I mean, if you then are going to go down the money ball or the young talent route, then that 50 million goes a lot further, without a doubt. And don't forget, we've invested already 20 million into the academy. These are all. If you're not going to start bringing players through, after that investment, what's the point of it? So, tapping back onto what Nigel said, there seems to be a bit of a plan that none of us are clearly aware of in the background, or you like to think so. Otherwise, it's just a waste of everyone's time, isn't it? Don't you think?
Interesting comment by your mate Simon Cheeseman. Scotty Parker is a very good shout if Roy moves upstairs.
Yeah, well, I did say Cheesy's a lovely fella, but it's bugger all about football.
But he said, I still like Eddie Howe, is what he said.
Yeah, no, to be fair, listen, Scott Parker's another. Scott Parker seems to be learning, doesn't he? He's done well. What I like about Scott Parker is he's not gone meekly, back down to the Championship. He is stuck to his principles, and he's learning. and he learns from his mistakes. And you can never detract from anyone that is able to learn from their mistakes. Is Hodgson someone that learns from his mistakes, or does he just keep on going the same direction?
He's just a dinosaur, keeps on plodding.
Well, I think we've done that to death. I'm just reading in some of the stuff in the chat.
So who's the next manager then? What have I missed?
Ian
Lyons.
Ian Lyons, because he's good on
Okay.
spreadsheets and he's boring like our current manager.
And Gray, like, well,
Yes, yeah, okay. Jamie Chambers has asked a question, and it's quite a short and succinct question, but let's cover it. Yeah, we have a few minutes to go. Have Benteke and Sacco worked? Now,
No.
obviously, these were major purchases from Liverpool. We invested an awful lot of money in it from Liverpool. The Scouts has done pretty well out of us on both those deals. We were baying Parish to bring
It was
Sacco
fan
back.
power, pull both of those in.
Well, it's certainly going to be fan power for the Sacco deal. You're right. Not so much necessarily with Benteke, but you may be right. You may be right. Yeah. Have they worked, boys?
They've both been here a long time now, haven't they? You know, it's what, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Sacco came on loan first. Was Benteke here on loan first? I can't remember. But Sacco was on loan, wasn't he? And everyone was waxing lyrical. And a few of us, people I sit with, said, if we sign him, I'm going to have Sacco 12 on the back of my shirt. And a few of them went for it, and I bottled out of it. But I think if you look back 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, Sacco was fantastic for us. And I think it's only because he's sort of made a glass a bit that he hasn't worked as well as we would have liked. Because, you know, he's a fantastic footballer and very gifted footballer. And I don't think he's reached his full potential really with us. Benteke has, I think, overall. I think, especially this season, he's come good. He's scored some goals, and he's playing quite well. So I would say out of the two of them, Benteke has more than Sacco has.
Mr. Lyons, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say in the early days, Benteke pretty much kept us up, didn't he? Went under Sam, but then we said it for months on this program. It doesn't matter who you have up front. If you feed them, if you supply them, they will start scoring. And in that particular period of time, where I think he scored 15 goals in the season, he was being supplied left, right, and centre from the wings by Wilf and by Balassi. And even this season, when he scored his goals, it's been the supply into him. He's not a striker that can work his own area, his own little bit of space and get a goal. I think Mateta could potentially be that type of individual.
Yeah,
I think
Batshuayi
I think Batshuayi is exactly the same type of player as well. So, with regards to your question, Benteke early days, but not for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Mamadou Sakho, no.
And funny enough, Joanne Phillips has just said in the chat, Sacco's been unlucky with injuries. I mean, he is a bit injury prone, Nigel, isn't he?
Yeah, he's probably been out more than he's been in, hasn't he? I think.
Well, say he's been unlucky, but that seems to be a trait with him throughout his career, isn't it? I mean, I think he's only played about 30% of the games he's available for, if that. And even then, a lot of them are half the game. But who are the fools in that regard? We are, for paying them the money.
Which brings me on to my last point on the subject, because none of you had actually picked up on the subject. With Mayer going in the January window, if you were to remove both of their wages off our wage bill, that would have brought our wage bill down by a third. Do you know that, with those 3 players going?
That is ridiculous.
It's a massive amount of money saved by losing those 2.
How do you feel as a player if you're getting changed next to someone? You know how much they're on because everyone talks about it. How does that make you feel, I wonder? It's still a lot of money if it's 35, 50 grand a week or 100.
I haven't got them. I've got them over there, but I had the whole full list of them. But
yeah, we don't need to know the exact figures. But I'm just the point I'm making or trying to make is that if you're on 35 grand a week and the bloke's getting changed to you week after week, next to you he's on 100 grand a week, and he's not as good as you are. You're contributing more. How does that make you feel? Does that affect your game as a player? I don't know.
It must do.
Well, I guess a lot of it comes down to because as players, they also get clean sheet bonuses, appearance bonuses, goal bonuses, assist bonuses as well. So a lot on top of their basic wage, they get supplementary, and that is supposed to incentivise, but it doesn't necessarily. When you're right, Ian, when you're on a certain whack, how much incentivisation do you need? But I guess the only real people it actually gives a positive effect for are the kids coming through. Tyrek Mitchell was on like 300 quid a week when he broke into the side, as was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. We quickly signed them up onto 15 grand a week deals or whatever. And that's still a massive amount for kids of that age.
Exactly.
But you're right. At what point is it too much? At what point are you playing for the money as opposed to playing to further your career, or what is the point of furthering your career? Do you still have that drive? How can someone earning allegedly like Haaland or Aubameyang over 375 grand a week?
It's just immoral, isn't it? How can
you? Where's the motivation? Wasn't it Alan Ball that was the first one to turn around when he was manager of Sunderland and said, "What can I say to a dressing room full of multi-millionaires?" And it does come down to, and that again, that may be where Parish is coming from. And again, if you recruit from the lower divisions, then they're easier to manage. Once you get into the league of the of the top four, it's so hard to manage egos, and you're essentially managing the club's finances as well at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
So Max was on 60 plus. Saka, I believe, was on 90 plus, and Benteke.
Saka's on 130.
Well, I was going to say, I thought Benteke certainly is on 130.
He is as well.
And your mate Simon has said Benteke actually looked half decent last night. Some nice deft touches in and around the box, and your point is absolutely bang on. And we did touch on that earlier in the show. Boys, I'm conscious of the time. I'm conscious of we've taken up lots of time on a cheesy evening with everybody, and they've joined us. Give us one positive thought from either of you with the week ahead and for the rest of the season. Mr. Noble, you're a very positive person. You go first.
Well, the positive thing for me is the whole performance yesterday compared to other away days and other games this season when we've seen us, hardly muster a shot on target. So I think we need to take a lot of positives from the whole team performance yesterday and take that into the game on Saturday. Bit of a cop out. Sorry,
Mr. Lyons.
Go on, Ian.
I was, as I say, taking the positives from last night. I thought going forward we were a threat. We didn't even touch on Eze being moved into the middle of the park, really, did we?
No.
That's something I wanted to talk about because I thought that was a positive move from Hodgson, and you can see how that moving forward may be a positive for us. I think, we're carrying a bit of momentum into the game. I definitely think Chelsea are there. We could just as easily get spanked 6-0. Don't get me wrong, but I've got something nagging away in the back of me head that's saying, well, we might actually get something out of it. So, I'm quite positive about the coming game.
Nigel, before I come to you on your positive, somebody just mentioned in the chat that Wickham is on 60 grand a week. And
I know.
A little bit of a concern on that subject, and again, thank you for raising it. Wickham is on 60 grand a week. Apparently, he's fit and raring to go. Didn't even make the bench last night. Give me a positive, Nigel.
Scored for the under-23s, huh?
Twice.
Yeah, he put a cracking ball across last week.
I saw. Did you see that ball with the outside of his foot? What a ball that was! What a ball that was! Yeah, shame you can't do it on the park on a Saturday for us, though. Yeah, Nigel.
He's got to get picked first, isn't he? Positive from last night, we went one down, and before, sort of previously, it would have been heads down, and it could have been we could have shipped another half a dozen. We kept on, we changed it slightly, and sort of we ground out the result. It's another point. Sort of technically, we're not mathematically safe, but Sheffield United are now out of our touch, or we're out of their touch, unless they score plus 19 goals over us, and we don't score another.
Stat? How do you know that stat? How do you even know that stat?
Because it was discussed in the chat earlier on. It was discussing the questions. I think they've got. It was in nice. They've got to win 8 of their last 8, and we've got to lose 8 of our last 8 or something.
Yeah, we've got to lose all our matches. They've got to lose.
Yeah,
they've got to win all theirs.
And with a swing of 19 goals.
And I like Laurie Scott. Laurie Scott said in the chat, "Remember, 2 negatives make a positive," which I think is brilliant. So yeah,
right.
That was very old school, wasn't it?
And a little announcement for you, everybody. We will be back on Sunday evening with a debutant. We're injecting some young blood. And I'm sick of talking to a bunch of old retards on every Sunday. So we've got a young guy called Harvey joining us, who is absolutely a Palace super fan. He's really knowledgeable about the game. He's really knowledgeable about the club. I'm not bigging him up too much, but he's done. I'm really excited to be having him on that subject of new young blood coming to join the team. Keep your eye out on all these socials, because we are going to be doing some recruiting. We're looking for some other people to come in, because we've got some lovely, exciting new software next season. So we're looking to be able to blood some new and exciting young presenters, Palace fans, please. Somebody who, preferably people who go to the game of all denominations. We're looking to give you an opportunity to come and join us on the Sunday evening and join us on the show and join the team. So look out for those on the socials. I'm going to pull the plug on it here, boys. Thank you for joining me, you three. We'll be back on Sunday evening live at 8:00. Lucy will be joining us and she'll be producing as well. On behalf of myself, Nick Philpott, and all my friends here, thank you so much for joining us. We shall see you at the weekend. Good luck, Palace, for Saturday. Bring home 3 points. We need them. So on behalf of myself, take care, God bless, and keep safe. Good night, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Palace.